everyone. I'm Margaret Miller, Assistant Professor of Viola at Colorado State University. This video is intended to help you prepare for the All-State Orchestra auditions. All-State Orchestra, as you know, is held here at CSU every February. There are many things to consider when preparing an audition. The first thing we'll look at are the scales. When preparing scales, have your metronome handy. Make sure that you're practicing your scales with full bows. Be mindful of your string crossings, making sure that they're even. And keep in mind that if you need to isolate shifts, especially when you're descending on a scale. And back to the metronome for just a second. I think it's very helpful to practice with the metronome, but also internalize that tempo as much as you can. So I would recommend practicing it several times with the metronome, and then practicing without, then going back and checking your metronome to make sure that your tempo is steady. We're string players. We tend to rush. So I think it's very valuable to internalize that tempo as much as you can. All scales are challenging, but I find E flat minor particularly so. So be mindful of the C flats on the way down on this scale. So E flat minor will be first, followed by F major. Before we talk about the Berlioz excerpt from Roman Carnival Overture, I would really encourage you to go to imslp.org and download a complete part so you understand the context of the viola part within the entire piece. This solo is for the viola section, so imagine that you're playing with your friends and your colleagues around you while you're working on this piece. Also be mindful of the accompaniment. Listen to recordings, watch performances on YouTube. The accompaniment is straight 16th notes, but it gets passed from instrument to instrument within the orchestra. So keeping your tempo steady is important. Even though it's a beautiful solo, we always have to be mindful of the accompaniment that's going on underneath this. I would suggest being in position as much as possible, for instance, starting in third position on this excerpt so you can keep more notes on one string. I would also suggest hooking the dotted eighths and sixteenths together whenever possible, again, to create a longer line. The bow needs to really sing through this excerpt, so make sure that your bows are very connected, especially down bows to up bows, and your bow changes at the frog are very smooth. Also vibrate across your string crossings and bow changes. That will also keep the singing line going. It's a wonderful excerpt. I know you'll enjoy playing it. As with the Berlioz excerpt, this excerpt that's coming next from the Beethoven's Fifth Symphony, the second movement. Download a part from imslp.org so you understand how the viola part looks and sounds in context, and listen and watch recordings. Very, very important to do that. This excerpt uses what's called Heavies Peccato. So it's not a Mozart kind of spiccato, but it's heavier, but it's still bouncing off the string. And I would also encourage you for fingerings in the second and third bars to use some third position to avoid some string crossings. Make sure in the last two bars that you pay careful attention to the sforzandi. It's a very important marking in Beethoven. And I think what you need to do is use a slightly longer bow on those sforzandi to make sure that they are heard. And here is the Beethoven Fifth Symphony excerpt. Some final thoughts as you're preparing for this audition. Auditions are very challenging, and I would encourage you to record yourself as often as you can. It's very, very helpful for listening for specific things, such as articulation, intonation, long line, whatever you need to focus on. But also make sure that you play musically, and especially play musically when you're practicing with the metronome. Eventually that has to go off. So make sure that you're thinking about the music that you're making, no matter what the speed, what the tempo, what the composer. Enjoy what you're playing. You've worked very hard. Thank you for watching, and feel free to contact me if you have any questions. Thank you.